All right, these are the notes for circumference of circles. So first couple things that we need to talk about with a circle is there's different parts of a circle. So on a circle from the center to any given point on the outside, that is called our radius. So again, from the center to the outside of a circle. That is considered a radius, and it can be anywhere. So I put it here, it could be here, it could be here, it could be here, it could be anywhere from the center to the outside of the circle. And then there's something called the diameter. The diameter is all the way across the circle through the center. It has to go through the center. Okay, so a diameter would be like this, all the way across the circle through the center. So I'm going to call this diameter. So if I give you the radius, all you need to do is double it to get the diameter, or do multiply it by 2. Or if I give you the diameter, you just have to take half of it to get the radius, or times a half. Okay, so now that we know what a radius and a diameter are, now we can find the circumference of a circle. So circumference is just a fancy word for perimeter for a circle. Circle gets its own word to find the distance around it. So what is circumference? The distance around a circle. So, and then in parentheses, I'm going to write perimeter. It's just like the perimeter of any two-dimensional object. It's the distance around the circle. And the formula for circumference is, we're going to write C equals, for circumference equals pi times diameter. Okay, so pi can have 2 different values. Most of the time we will use 3.14. And if it doesn't say in the directions, it is safe to use 3.14. Sometimes we'll use the fraction 22 sevenths, but not very often. But I want you to know that you could actually find diameter or circumference using that also. So here's an example. I have a circle here. I know the diameter all the way across through the center is 18 inches. So I would say circumference equals pi times diameter. And I'm going to encourage you to always write your formula first like we always do, and then substitute in what we know. We don't know the circumference. We know pi is 3.14. And in this case, we know the diameter is 18. So times 18. So I'm going to say 3.14 times 18. That gives me the circumference is 56 and 52 hundredths inches. And I don't want you rounding unless it says specifically in the directions to round. So my circumference is 56 and 52 hundredths inches. Okay, let's try another one. So here's my circle. I see that the radius is 14 centimeters. It also down here says, this time we're going to use 22 sevenths for pi. Okay, so always start with the formula first. So circumference formula is pi times diameter. Okay, fill in what we know. We don't know the circumference, so it still says C equals. And then for pi, it says we're going to use 22 sevenths. So 22 sevenths times the diameter. But remember, diameter is all the way across my circle, and this is just my radius. That's half of my circle. So to get my diameter, I have to say 14 times 2. That way it makes me go all the way across my circle. So my diameter would be 28. Okay, so using my calculator, I can use the fraction button. It says 22 sevenths times 28. We'll find out the circumference is 88 centimeters. Let's try some on the back. So show your formula, work, and don't forget to label it. So here's my formula, my line for my formula. Remember, circumference equals pi times diameter. I'm going to fill in what I know. There's no instructions on what to use, so that means we're going to use 3.14 times, I've been given my diameter. Remember, diameter is all the way across, so times 8. So 3.14 times 8 gives me 25 and 12/100. I would label it inches. Okay, remember, distance around is just a plain label. If it's area, then I would say inches squared. If it was volume, then I would say inches cubed. Okay, so let's find the circumference, or the distance around my circle, when I know the radius is 6 2/10 meters. Radius because it's halfway across the circle. So I'm going to say circumference equals pi times diameter. Again, we're going to use 3.14 times. Now, I've been given the radius, so that means I have to figure out the diameter by multiplying it by 2. So I know the diameter is 12 and 4/10. So I'm going to do 3.14 times 12 and 4/10. Remember, we're not rounding, so it's 38 and 936 thousandths. And label it meters. So the next two are the same type of problem, except it's been given to you in word form. I oftentimes draw pictures whenever I am given words. That way I can see the radius or diameter and can see exactly what I need to do. So it says find the circumference of a plate whose diameter is 28 centimeters. I'm going to draw a picture. Here's my plate. And I know the diameter, that's all the way across, is 28 centimeters. So I'm going to say circumference equals pi times diameter. That way it gets stuck in my head. Circumference then equals, it says to use 3.14, so that's what we're going to use, times diameter. And that's what I was given. I was given the diameter all the way across, so times 28. So I'm going to say 3.14 times 28. My circumference is 87 and 92/100 centimeters. Okay, here's another word problem. The radius of a unicycle wheel is 10.5 inches. So let's just draw that. Here's a wheel. I know the radius. Remember, radius is from the middle to the outside, so not all the way across. The radius is 10.5. Find the circumference of the wheel. How far did the unicycle travel? Oh, that should have the word if in it. We missed a word. If it rotated 15 times, use 3.14 for pi. Okay, let's find the circumference first, because that's the first thing it asks us to do. So I'm going to say circumference equals pi times diameter. And I'm going to say circumference equals 3.14 times, well, I know the radius is 10.5, so I have to double that or multiply it by 2 to get my diameter. That would give me 21. 3.14 times 21. I know when my wheel rotates one time, or the distance around my circle, so the distance one time around my circle is 65 and 94/100 inches. Okay, that answers this question. Find the circumference. Now there's a second question. How far did the unicycle travel if it rotated 15 times? So every time the wheel goes around, I know it goes 65 and 94/100 inches. I'm going to say 65 and 94/100 times 15. I find out that it's going to travel 989 and 1/10 inches. Now I have 2 down here that's kind of working backwards. It says the circumference of a circle is 15 and 7/10 inches. What is the diameter? So when you're given something like this, we always start it the same way. Write down our formula. Okay, then we're going to fill in what we know. The circumference of the circle is 15.7. We know the circumference is 15.7 equals, it doesn't say for pi, so we're going to assume 3.14. And the d for diameter is just going to stay there because we don't know what the diameter is. To get my 3.14 and my d apart, right now they're next to each other, which means multiplication, and the opposite of multiplication is division. So I'm going to divide by 3.14. I get d equals 5. So I know the diameter is 5 inches. All right, so again, the diameter then is 5, and we got to label it. It would be 5 inches. Let's try that working backwards again. The circumference of a circle is 59 66/100 feet. What is the radius? Ooh, all right. So start with our circumference formula. Circumference equals pi times diameter. I know my circumference is 59 66/100 feet equals, we're going to use 3.14 for pi, and I do not know the diameter, so I'm going to write d for diameter. So I want to get these apart, and right now they're being multiplied, and the opposite of multiplication is division. So I know I need to divide by 3.14. When I do that, I find out the diameter is 19. But that's not what the question asks. The question asks what the radius is. So if I had a circle right here, I know the diameter is 19. I want to know what the radius is. So remember, a radius is half of the diameter. So I could do this one of two ways. I could say 19 times 1/2, half of the diameter, or I can say 19 divided by 2, because that's the same thing. So when I do that, I get the answer 9.5. The radius equals 9.5, and our unit of measure was feet. So 9.5 feet.